Hey, what's up, guys? Today I'm back with another edit with me, and today it's gonna be a little bit different. I have Luminar Neo. Now, Luminar Neo is basically an all AI based editing software compared to stuff like Photoshop and Lightroom, where there's just some AI in it. Luminar Neo is nothing but AI. So, all you have to do is just adjust sliders here and there, and then you'll end up with a nice picture. So throughout this video, I will compare and contrast, but I just want to see how good it is just for being all AI based. First thing I want to do is I want to go over the pricing. Right now they're having, I think, a Black Friday deal for Christmas. So you could see that you could get a 1 month plan for $14.95. You can get 24 months for $119, or you get 12 months for $79. And then, unlike Adobe, you are able to have a lifetime purchase for $149 one-time payment, which I think that is worth it. Compared to $119 right here, $149 one-time payment to have this for a lifetime, that is definitely worth it. I would get this as long as it's good. It's a limited time offer. It's 4 days, it seems like. So at the end of this video, I will decide if it is worth jumping on this deal or not. And I will put the link in the description below. So let's jump into Luminar Neo itself. So Luminar Neo overall, it looks very nice. It's very modern looking, has a nice layout. And I will just be editing 2 pictures mainly, even though I have 4 in here. I'm going to use an HDR merge that they have, because Photoshop and Lightroom do have an HDR merge. So I want to see how good their HDR merge is compared to Lightroom's and Photoshop's. So these 3 pictures right here of a sunset that I have on the left are pictures that I took. And I already have some that are edited with Adobe software. And I will compare the final outcome of this compared to what I got with Adobe's. The picture of this model over here to the right, I got off of this website where you could go to download a bunch of free RAW files, which I think is very nice. If you want to download free RAW files to maybe practice your editing and stuff like that, check out this website. It's signatureedits.com. You could download a bunch of free RAW files to mess around with your editing and just practice. But other than that, let's jump into it. So first thing I want to do is try HDR merge. Well, let's just go, before we jump into anything, let's go over the stuff that they have to offer right in the front. Let's go over some of the features that they have to offer. So you can see Gen Erase and Gen Swap. They have HDR merge, upscale, and panorama stitching. So HDR merge is the same thing as HDR merging with Photoshop and Lightroom, where you just gather a bunch of photos at different exposures, and then you merge them together to create an HDR image. Same concept here. Upscaling, I think Lightroom does have upscaling now. I think that was something that was added not too long ago, but you just take an image and it will upscale a resolution of it and allow you to crop it a little bit better. Panorama stitching, that's something that Lightroom and Photoshop have, but we could test that out. We won't be able to test that out because I do not have any photos that I need to stitch together. And also and I'm back on Luminar's website here, and I just want to show you some other features that they do have that are not so obvious. So here's just some effects that you could add to photos. Before, after, before, after. Here's some more effects. So regular lighting, and then you could add studio lighting, which I think is pretty cool. Just one click of a button, bam. Now this is something that they recently added to, I guess, compete with Photoshop's generative fill. And they have Gen Erase, So you could see it adds in an elephant. And then they also have Gen Swap. Just swaps out the outfit there. And then they also have Gen Expand. So all these things I'm pretty sure are just to compete with the generative fill that Photoshop has released, because these are the three newest things that have come to Luminar Neo. But anyway, back to Luminar Neo itself. Let's try and merge these photos and see what it comes up with. See how long it takes, because I know it doesn't take that long in Lightroom when I'm doing it. All right, and this is what I'm left with. So this actually did a way better job than the one from Photoshop, in my opinion. Because the one from Photoshop, or Lightroom, I think is the one that I used, the foreground was way too dark. And then also the sky was alright, but the foreground was definitely too dark. And I like the way that the foreground came out in this one. So let me go into editing mode now. And then we're going to crop it. And I'm just going to crop it the same way, or as close to the same way as I did with the one from Lightroom. And basically all I did was I drug it to get the guy's car out of the way. Alright, that's looking pretty good. We could probably crop it just a little bit more to the left. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. That's looking pretty solid to me. So now let's go to enhance. Now enhance, all it does is this. It just pretty much adds like a little bit of contrast to everything. Maybe a little bit of saturation and vibrancy along with the contrast. So what I'll do is I'll pump that up a little bit to around like 1920. I'll add the sky enhancer to about 30. Then we can see the before, after, before, after. Then we're going to do sky by itself. Okay, now sky, you could completely replace the sky. Now I'm going to leave the sky alone, but I just want to kind of click it just to show you that it can be replaced. So let's say I want to replace with that. Now it didn't really get the sun too good in there, but if we just go through, you could see it just quickly replaces the sky. And if we didn't have that sun there, then we wouldn't have to worry about it. But let's get rid of that and we'll work with what we got here. Alright, so next up we got noiseless AI, which is just basically like denoise in Lightroom. We're only going to do low because I don't have much noise on this picture. And you can see it did a pretty decent job. What I'm actually noticing is that when the HDR merged, it lost some quality, but it can just be all in my head. I'll have to double check that. Maybe the Lightroom one wasn't that good either. But we could also do some super sharp. So let's sharpen it up with AI as well. We'll do low sharpening. Okay, that's not very noticeable, but we'll keep going with it. Alright, next up we got the magic light AI. And as you can see, when we drag the intensity up, it just kind of goes off the sun a little bit more. Just to create the beams, but I like the sun the way it was. I think I captured it pretty good, so I'll leave that alone. And then you got the basic, as they call it, essentials. Just your details. Do you want to edit the small details? We'll pump that up just a little bit. Pump up the larger details just a little bit. You know, that's looking good to me. That's normal denoise. We got color structure AI. So this is what structure AI does. If we take it all the way to the max, there you go. You can see it. Again, it just kind of adds like a little bit of sharpening and contrast in a way. We could boost it, but I'm actually going to take it down to about, 20. I like it at 20 there. It's not terrible. All right, now this is relay AI, which allows you to readjust how bright things are in different areas. So you got the brightness near and the brightness far. So brightness near, I'm actually going to crank down a little bit because I feel like it is a little too bright up close. So we'll bring that down to about 60. Brightness far, We'll leave that up to about 6 because we do want to see out in the distance. So atmosphere AI, you could also just add fog if you want to. Personally, I don't think the fog is that realistic, but it is nice to just be able to crank a slider up and there you go, you got fog. Sun rays, you could do sun rays. The sun rays are kind of because you need to pick where the sun center is. I already got sun rays, so I'm not going to mess with that. But again, it's still pretty cool. It's a cool effect to have if you just want to add some subtle details to your photo. So this is the dramatic slider. The dramatic slider just takes a little bit of color out of your photo. The more you crank it up, the more, or the less saturated, I should say, it gets. That's pretty much all that does. And then with mood, alright, so moving on down to mystical. Mystical just adds kind of like a little bit of a blur in there, which is still pretty cool. It's a cool effect, but not my style for this photo per se. And then here you got like a glow, which in a way it's kind of similar, but I don't know if I would particularly go for that. Maybe I'll leave it at 3 because that looks decent. And then you got blur and film grain, which is pretty self-explanatory. Going back up here, some of the things I skipped over were mood, toning, and matte, and I think neon and glow, which neon and glow I can't really do in this picture because I don't have any neon. Toning is pretty much kind of like split toning. And mood, it didn't really affect this picture too much, but it's another effect that just adds a lot of contrast to the photo. Okay, now for the rest of them, you have in here portrait. If you had a... Okay, so next up you have portrait. This is all portrait stuff. So you got body, skin, face. You could do portrait bokeh and the studio light, but we don't really have a portrait here. This is more of a landscape, so I'm gonna stick with the landscape stuff and we'll move on to a portrait when we get to our portrait next. Last few things we have super contrast, which as you can imagine will just really contrast stuff up. And I'm not really digging that. I kind of liked it the way it was. Midtones. And we could probably bring the midtones up a little bit though, not gonna lie. Shadows. And we'll leave the shadows alone. Alright, and then in the Essentials tab, I did skip over a Landscape tab, which I completely forgot about. And in there is dehaze, because I was looking for dehaze. And we're just going to crank that up a little bit just to get rid of some of that haze that's in the picture. So maybe around 30. And then you could choose if it's golden hour or not, which it basically was golden hour in there, but I don't want it to be too gold. Foliage enhancer. There wasn't too much foliage. Okay, and then you can do masking if you need to, so there is a AI mask that will detect stuff. And I'm gonna select mountains, see what it selects. And it selected pretty good majority of mountains. And we'll see if we could dehaze that just a little bit more, just to give the mountains a little bit more detail. And then we're gonna go up to the detail tab. And we're also gonna add a mask in there. And then we're gonna do the same thing. Crank up the details. Alright, I feel like that's what we're left with. So I'm gonna export this and then we're gonna compare and contrast what each one looks like. And keep in mind this took me about, I would say, 10 minutes in total to edit, roughly. Okay, so after spending a little bit of time in Luminar Neo and I edited this one, then we're gonna compare it to the one that I edited in Photoshop, which is this one. So the crop is a little bit different, but that's overall what it looks like. So you got that one, then you got this one. I mean, I don't know. They both have their pros and cons. But I might have to give it to this one that was edited in Adobe. Just because I like it more. And let me check the sharpness. Now the sharpness is about the same. Yeah, the sharpness is about the same when they were merged together. I do like how it stacked them and it was able to maintain the brightness of the foreground rather than darkening it so much like it did in this one. But I don't know. Tell me what you guys think. Do you prefer this one, which was edited in Lightroom and Photoshop, or you prefer this one, which was edited in Luminar Neo? This one I spent a lot more time on because it was a lot more hand editing and AI. This one was just me moving around sliders. And I did some masking, but not a lot. So yeah, let me know. What do you guys think? Okay, so next up we got this picture with the model that I got offline. And the first thing you're gonna notice is it has a lot of noise. A lot of noise. So let's go in here and let's do the middle noise reducer. Oh, we might have to go up to the high one. Alright, that's what the high one did. If you back out, it's alright. It's not the best, but it's alright. So let's go to Magic Light and we'll test out Magic Light. I doubt it will do anything. Alright, so I'm gonna go down to Essentials and I'm just gonna jump to Structure AI and we're gonna go and pump this up to about 50. Because why not? There you go. And then we're gonna go down to Creative. All the creative and filtered stuff. Let's check this out. So relight, we're not gonna mess with any lighting. Actually no, let's check it out. Well, not saying that the lighting's bad, but if we just bump the brightness up to near, like look at that, it just pops a little bit more. She pops out a little bit more, and then brightness far. We could just tone that down a little bit. The depth, we could change the depth of field. I feel like this is really good for portraits for sure. Oh yeah, look at that. That's looking pretty good. I like that. Okay, so sunrays, nah. Dramatic. Oh no, I do not like the dramatic look. Let's go down to mystical. Ah, mystical actually looks pretty cool. Like it's adding a very soft touch. So if we do before, after, it's a very soft touch on there. And then we'll just bump that up to about 50. Okay. And then we'll do a regular glow. Ooh, too much. Alright, never mind. No glow. And then we're gonna go down to portrait. So this is the new studio lighting that's been added in. And you can just change the way the lighting is. Like, it's pretty cool the way you can move the stuff around. You could add more light patterns. Change the light customizations. You could add more strips, dots. Move your light around. You could add different texture. One vintage windows, sure. Why not? Alright, so I was playing around with it until I eventually got something that I liked. And this is without it on, this is with it on. So it looks pretty cool. I like it. We'll leave it. Then we're gonna go over to, we could do like the portrait bokeh if we want. Just turn it up. See what it looks like. And you can actually see that it doesn't really change the picture that much because there's already so much in the picture. So we're just gonna take that off. Then we're gonna go to face. Now this is where it gets pretty cool in my opinion. So you could take the face and brighten it up. Just brighten that face up. So I'm gonna brighten it up a little bit, around like 14. Then you could slim the face down too. So let's say you want to slim that face all the way down. And that's what it looked like. That's what it looks like after. That's what it looks like before. We're not going to slim it down that much. We're just going to slim it down to like about 5. Now with the eyes, you could also enhance the eyes. I usually crank the eye enhancer all the way up. Iris flare, I usually give a nice iris flare. Give that to about 65. Eye whitening, we'll whiten it up pretty good. About 50. Iris visibility, turn that up. Then we can improve the eyebrows a little bit. Do that to about 40. We'll remove dark circles because that will improve the visibility of the iris. Then overall, that's pretty good for the eyes. Then we can move down to the lips and just slide it up and say, oh, I want saturated lips. And then you could say you want a little bit of redness on the lips. Then whiten those teeth up a little bit. Now, moving on down to skin, you could just tack a box and have skin defects removed. You could select how much you want removed. We'll do 50. Even though there's not really much skin defects. Shine removal, there's not much shine, so we'll just do 20. And then we'll bring this down to about 40. That's looking pretty good. Now body, I'm just going to do this to show you. Turn it all the way up, and it will make you skinnier. And then same thing with abdomen. Now you can't really see her abdomen, but it will shrink the abdomen as well. But we don't need that. And then that's pretty much it for the portrait. You have high key, which is just another way of changing the lighting. But I feel like the lighting is pretty good there. I like the lighting the way it is. And that's about it. Let's do a before and after. So that's the before, that's the after. Before, after. And I think that looks pretty good if I do say so myself. That only took about like what, another 10 minutes or so, maybe 5 minutes, just to go through and move some sliders around. Okay, so after all that, do I think it is worth the price right now? Personally, I do think it is worth the price. I think if you want to purchase the one-time purchase price of $149, that is definitely worth it. Because you'll have it forever. You don't have to worry about renewing your subscription like with Adobe. And then it will also make it quicker. So if you're someone that wants to edit photos quickly but still have the creativity within it, it is definitely worth it. And even if you're not sure, there is a 30-day money-back guarantee. So you could always purchase it, and then if you don't like it, return it within 30 days, get your money back, and then just put it into something else. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you want to see more of me using Luminar Neo, or I could compare it directly with Photoshop and Lightroom, hand in hand, I could do that as well. But I will see you guys in the next one.